is the leadership practice inventory. Some of you may often, if you have an MBA, you may have read the book with the yellow cover called The Leadership Challenge.
The Leadership Challenge. Yes, I did.
So Kouzes and Posner put together this list, let me make it a bit bigger here, of 30 items about what it means to be a transformational leader.
Mm-hmm.
And for how it's done on a quant study is you ask them, for example, number one, I set a personal example of what I expect from others. And you ask them how often they do it, from almost never to almost always. You know, it's valid and reliable and it's been used in a zillion studies, and this is more quant.
Yeah.
Now, I had one student at Pepperdine I was working with. He, in his day job, he was a political activist. And one community in Los Angeles is the city of Glendale.
Okay.
And Glendale has a large Armenian community. I guess if people move to Los Angeles, they move to Glendale if they're Armenian. And, you know, they've got, I guess you can, you know, survive with your native tongue in Glendale because of that. Huge
Sure.
Armenian community and Armenian churches and people from the home country and all those sort of things.
Makes sense.
He was a political activist. So what he did, and he got permission from Kouzes and Posner, he changed the leadership practice inventory. So let me bring up the metric that he used.
Okay.
He had people, so he had them rate each of the 30 leadership practices with this 5-point scale.
Interesting.
1 is much less for Armenian politicians. 2 is less. 3 is equal for Armenian and non-Armenian. 4 is more for Armenian politicians. 5 is much more. Because his study was looking at, well, what's the essence of being an Armenian politician?
Interesting.
So before he interviewed them, he had them fill out the LPI using this scale.
Okay.
And then his follow-up questions is you'd say, well, Mr. Nazarian, I noticed you said setting a personal example is much more important for Armenian politicians. Please tell me about that. So you get the ratings, and he had the mayor and he had the city council and he had other Armenian political advocates and the guy who was in charge of the water department, and everybody's Armenian in that town who ran the place. So among the things he did is he did follow-ups for that. He had a simple table where he took the 30 items and he sorted it by how Armenian-ish, I created a word there, transformational leadership is in the city of Glendale.
How interesting.
So you're taking an established instrument and then you're asking them for follow-up. I don't see that done a lot, but I think that can be powerful. And of course, the leadership practice inventory is profoundly tied to the literature.
Right.
And there's subscales on here, and you can say, oh, well, the one that, you know, tends to be most is related to, you know, vision casting. Or something, you know, it's a different kind of a tool. So you're taking an established psych test and now you're using it for interviewing. What often is done instead, which I think personally is totally worthless, is you'd meet with the mayor and say, tell me what leadership means to you. And now somebody who, you know, the hour before they were meeting with the water department, now they have to come out and give some pontificate on some sort of an essay of what leadership means. The yield is likely to be terrible.
Right. Because you're not starting from the same place, right?
Yes.
Like what I'm asking about leadership, I already know how I'm defining it for my dissertation. When I ask you about leadership, I need to make sure that you're clear on what I'm asking about. And this kind of tool kind of helps level set everybody's understanding of what we're talking about.
And his particular study was what's unique about Armenian politicians.
Yeah.
So we're asking them, giving them 30 examples, the statements from the leadership practice inventory, and then across, I think he had about 15 politicians and political folks, what they found to be most, what's the essence of Armenian leadership
Really.
and how it's different from non-Armenians.
Yeah.
I also used this with another person. They had access to community college presidents.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of much less for Armenian politicians, we had much less for, they were comparing community college presidents with corporate CEOs.
Ooh, interesting.
So, you know, their statements were much less, you know, leadership practice inventory. You know, much less for community college presidents, less, equal for college presidents and corporate CEOs, more for corporate CEOs, much more for corporate CEOs.
Interesting. And did they send the survey to both groups or just the community college presidents?
No, they interviewed community college presidents. From
Okay.
their perception, what was different about being a community college president than being a corporate CEO?
Interesting.
And, you know, just as a punchline here, you know, they're looking at things like the community college president had to deal with tenured professors, which at a corporate level, you can just get rid of folks.
Right.
Tenured or corporate, I mean, community college presidents had to do more with fundraising,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
where with CEOs had to make sure that the stock price was good for the shareholders. They had different political masters, if I can use that phrase.
Yep. The board, shareholders. Yep.
Yep.
Interesting.
But you can take that and compare two different groups, and it provides, I believe, a better yield than just saying, tell me what it's like to be a community college president.
Yeah. Because you can get deeper faster, if that makes sense.
Right. And the coding is simpler because you actually have the statements.
Right.
Because eventually, after you've done your interviews, you have to compare what you found to the literature and answer the question, is it similar? Is it different? And how come? So if you already have these statements beforehand,
Right.
you can then more easily compare it to the literature and get your chapter 5 done quicker.
Yeah. Because that's already, the LPI is already out there with a lot of literature. So
Oh yeah.
that mapping would be, I feel like that would be really quick.
Mhm.
Very cool.
And
Love
then
that approach.
so you have that, and then you've got, I'm sure, articles on, you know, the essence of being a community college president. What's that
Right.
like? They've got those, and you can bring those in and
Do a comparison there too. Very cool. Love that approach too. Lots of different ways to approach how you get to your qualitative data.